Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 82 of Behind the Camera, the podcast where we shine a light on the storytellers, the creatives, and the voices behind the camera. This week, I'm joined by comedian and filmmaker Camboi Smif. We talk about Cameron's development in front of and behind the camera, his character Camboi Smif, and current YouTube series The Loneliest Boy on Earth, which blends documentary-style filmmaking with real-life circumstance. If you'd like to stay connected and support the show, I am now on Patreon. For £3 a month, you'll get access to exclusive series, behind-the-scenes content, and much, much more. My Linktree in the About section of the show also has links to the merch store, socials, and everything else you need. And finally, my upcoming book, Behind the Camera, The Journey So Far, is now available to pre-order on Kindle ahead of its release on both Kindle and paperback on the 5th of March. Now, here's the interview. Cameron, welcome to Behind the Camera podcast. Absolute pleasure to have you on the show. How are we doing today?
Doing pretty good, brother. How are you?
I'm doing good, man. Doing good. Thanks for your time as well. So let's get straight into it. So you're an artist, comedian, and filmmaker, which is obviously a great combination of things. Take us back to the beginning. Like, with your background to this, how did you get into this sort of industry?
I don't even know if I'd say I'm really in the industry. That's number one. But when I was about 10 years old, I got a video camera as like a elementary school graduation gift, and I just started making home videos, and I treated them like comedy sketches. And then I think maybe a few years into that, I figured out how to convert my DVD-R video camera videos, which I was only shooting in sequential order and burning to DVDs and watching with my friends. I figured out how to rip those onto my computer and actually start editing. So I made cartoons, I made live action sketches and short films and stuff, and it evolved into a couple feature films and music videos. And then mostly everything kind of stemmed from making comedy forward video content.
Mm-hmm.
And by 16, this character I played that was a rapper became a character I was embodying to actually write rap songs and release albums under the name Camboi Smif. And then a year after that, I was 17, my senior year of high school, I started doing stand-up comedy. And I started with a 2.5 hour documenting like my first 30 days doing stand-up, and also meeting a lot of my friends in the Wilmington comedy scene for the first time on camera. So I hate watching myself do stand-up in that film. And I hate hearing my arrogant 17-year-old talk about his genuine opinions. But there is a wonderful nostalgic element seeing people that I'm close with now for the first time. So I will give the film that. But yeah, those things, I say the trifecta is film, music, and comedy for me. And those, I sometimes experiment outside of those mediums, but mostly those are the ones that have my heart. And, I've continued to expand into.
Yeah, awesome stuff. And do you ever look back at your original footage that you filmed like all those years ago with your very first camera, and just like you said, there's like the nostalgia point of it, but like, do you ever look back and think, man, what was this like compared to like what you've done now?
Yeah, there's a lot of it that baffles me. I mean, sometimes like sometimes I'm envious of my older self. I feel like sometimes I'm quicker and sharper and like better at improv and whatnot, and sometimes just genuinely funnier. And it's so baffling to me because I think back, like I didn't have nearly of a I didn't have a sophisticated philosophy about these things or even like meta thoughts about them. I just was this thing and didn't think twice about it. And so like that kind of bothers me about, like, I'm overthinking now and I'm way too like deep into the art, and I'm like, oh, I'm an artist now. I didn't think I was an artist. I didn't even call myself creative back then. Like there's part of me that's like, I've got my head up my ass now. I wish I was just like a straight up doer like I used to be, and I've become a bit more loquacious, and it's just so disgusting and I hate it. But also, if I there's another way to think about it where I look back at some of that stuff. I'm like, I'm way more better at the craft and way more thoughtful and balanced, and like the work is so much more dynamic. But yeah, I mean, I have lots of visceral reactions to watching some old stuff. Some stuff I'm like, oh my god, that's hard to watch, and other things like that, I don't know how I did that back then. I don't know how I made anything that great.
But that's the interesting thing about it, because you do. I've spoke to a fair few filmmakers who kind of started off in similar ways, and like that's just how it is. It starts off with they get a camera and they're just shooting, and it's like you said, it goes with kind of little thought. You're just, this would be funny, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to just sort of, you don't even think about editing, you don't even think about like the sort of philosophy behind filmmaking. It's just, this is what I've got, I'm going to just pause the recording as and when I need. They're going to be like the cuts between scenes, whatever it may be, and like it just comes out with something that's postable in the end.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I feel like that was something um I guess where I shine as an editor is, back in the day when I was shooting these sketches with friends, a lot of us didn't know what the hell we were doing, technical film wise. Like I learned how to do the technical stuff just enough to get the damn thing done. And that has always been my attitude, especially like people know I make videos, and I have a freelance business now, but for the longest time people would like know that I make videos. They'd be like, oh, can you shoot this video for me? I want you to make a commercial for my business, or I want you to shoot my wedding, or yada, yada. And I was like, sometimes I'd do it because they're offering money, but other times I was just like, I don't like just working with a camera for the camera's sake. I'm the ideas person and I bring ideas to life. I don't love the technical aspect of this. and, and so anyway, where I was going with that comment is where I shine as an editor is like, because we didn't know what we were doing technically at any stage of the filmmaking process, I had to take really garbage footage and figure out how to make it watchable. So like quite good at like, oh, we only did like one take of everything or two takes maybe at most. And, stitching together garbage footage to something that actually seems like it was intentional.
But at the end of the day, I suppose we all have to start somewhere. And just like on your point where you mentioned people reaching out and saying like, can you film this commercial, can you film my wedding and stuff? It's like, obviously being an ideas man, it's you're working behind the camera, but you're filming something, and of course the editing is where your ideas come in. But do you kind of feel like if you're doing something for somebody else, that kind of limits your creativity in terms of what you can do with the camera to a degree?
Yeah, I mean, it certainly does create, like, okay, even if I think about ideal scenarios, like, uh, you know, I would love to be making huge money off this and be doing this like professionally, making things for Netflix or for Paramount or whatever, like, however, that would enter me into a relationship where I'm like, getting funded by very wealthy people, producers, studios, and there are stipulations and like breathing down my neck, and like who knows how much creative freedom I would have in those deals. So like it's not exactly the same when someone hires me to do like a freelance project. It's a little different, or it's quite different, but there is still this element of like the way I do things and have historically done things, there is no uh, net of approval that is needed. I don't ever have that thought. I don't ever think about it. I am completely at my own sort of opinion on whether something is flying or making it in there or not. And I think that when I do have a layer of that, whether it is in scenario one or scenario two, there is something about it that is less desirable, that I don't think I work well with. Like I'm a person that really just doesn't do well with the like a normal work dynamic of having a boss.
Mm-hmm.
It I find myself very easily irritated in those dynamics.
Yeah, for sure. Especially, when for the entire time you've been like filmmaking or had a camera, you've had full creative license, everything being 100% produced by yourself. It's one of those things where if that was to change, that's like a massive adjustment for sure.
Yeah. And there is something too about like, okay, here's two great examples. Like when I have someone approach me, like I have this commercial, I have this very specific idea, and they kind of like list to the T what they want. Okay, well now you've sucked all the fun out of it for me, and I'm literally just doing a technical job for you. And then I've had people that are like bands or musicians that have been like, this is the song. We have no idea what we want. Can you please make us a music video? I love those people because I get to take that song and then I come back with an insane interpretation of like, what if this was the visuals? And they're like, yeah, dude, that sounds crazy. I love that. Let's do it. And yeah, so like, even though at the end of the day, I got to get their approval with that video, like I just love working with people that don't really know what they want, and they're coming to me because they know what I do and they like my style, and they're like, I trust you, whatever you do, I'm gonna like.
Yeah, and I think music videos, particularly like you say, they sound like the best ones because like you see a music video and there's always the credit for the director, because 99% of the time it's you got the band playing in a setting, and then within that setting they maybe some members of the band are sort of acting out a particular scene, and then everything's all kind of put together, but it's done really creatively and cinematically, and you can tell that it has that sort of personal stamp on it that the director is kind of on the sort of, I suppose, like the filmmakers and crew are putting on it, really.
Right.
Yeah. So I wanted to talk as well about the Loneliest Boy on Earth, your YouTube series. I believe there's 7 out of 8 episodes currently online as it is. So tell us about that, like the sort of conception of that and how that kind of developed over time.
Yeah. Yeah, I've told a bunch of different versions of the story. I'm trying to figure out which one I want to tell this time. Uh, I was tossing around the idea because, like I said, I made that stand-up documentary, and that was all the way back in 2012 when I was 17. And I think maybe around 2020, maybe even 2018 or 19, I was considering an idea of doing another documentary. And the idea was essentially to make this, strange sort of meta humor type documentary where it is a documentary about myself, where I'm very clearly to the viewer also the filmmaker.
Yep.
And it was going to be this thing that was just like trying to find some humor in like whether the direction was like, I'm going to really build myself up and make myself look awesome with this documentary. But the meta humor is that how pathetic is this for this man to make a documentary about himself? And this is the like cunty attitude that he's got on camera. Like this is how he's acting. So like kind of to play up arrogance and like self, I guess like, yeah, self-absorption. That was sort of the angle. I was like, it's just not enough. Like, I like that idea, but I don't really have a lot of like ideas for the meat of that. Or even how to begin. I just didn't, the spark didn't ever come for me to begin, and I just liked the idea. So I sat on it, and then in 2019, when I was living in Los Angeles, I ended up on this reality dating show on the E Network. It's called Dating #No Filter. I'm season 2, episode 14. I get set up on this blind date, and I had so much fun shooting that. And I feel like, I mean, my date hated me, but the producers, I think, enjoyed having me on the show. And I blew it with my date. I made her get up and leave because I made some offensive cum joke. And
I'm gonna go back and watch that episode now for sure.
Yeah. Well, I opened the Loneliest Boy on Earth, the first episode, with that, like kind of the highlights of it.
Oh, amazing.
And so I did that, and I had fun doing that. And then of course, like when it aired a year later, me and my friends were like watching it and talking about it. And I was on a trip, staying at one of my friend's condos in the mountains. It was just him and his girlfriend, and they were all coked up and drunk, and I was just stone cold sober, just talking to them. And they we were just talking about that dating show appearance, and they were like, how funny would it be, almost in like a Nathan Fielder kind of way, if you made your own dating show, same kind of format, but you are the filmmaker, and it's obvious to you're the producer of this dating show that you're putting yourself in, so you're controlling the production and everything. So it creates like this weird sort of dramatic irony for the viewer that the other person on the date with you isn't really aware of. Like, we hide the fact that you are the main producer. They think they're just on camera with another random person. And so I'm like, yeah, I kind of like that idea. And I sat on that for a while. And then it wasn't until 2 years later that Nathan Fielder had put out The Rehearsal. And I had just finished it. And I was in the shower after smoking some weed. And the idea hit me where it brought that documentary idea together with that make your own dating show things. Like, oh, it should be, I'm making a documentary about myself as an artist, and I'm highlighting what my greatest weakness is, because this is true for me. At the time I was experiencing just the newest iteration of my struggle with unrequited love. Like, I'm constantly falling in love and obsessing over women that want nothing to do with me, and it's my least favorite thing about myself. And it is, I think, my Achilles heel, and it's the greatest thing holding me back. I go on major courses of distraction from what like really matters to me, and I'm wasting my time trying to form a relationship that would be terrible if I were ever to be able to even form it. And so I'm like, let me take that documentary and in an exploitative kind of way, almost like I'm obviously the filmmaker to the viewer, but I'm coming at myself with the attitude of someone trying to make a hit piece on someone. Like, the filmmaker hates me and is trying to show this like brutal reality of like, look how pathetic this one aspect of this guy is. And even the fact he's trying to be an artist, look at how unsuccessful he is. He doesn't make any money off this. He gets like fucking 50 views on his shit when he puts it out. Who gives a shit? Like, it's really, but like, not untrue portrayal of me. And then I decide in the middle of this documentary, oh, I'm going to make my own reality dating show. So it's a documentary about me making my own reality dating show. And so it's got quite a bit of layers of like meta. And that's when I was like, yes, that's the idea. That's enough. Like, it's not just plain narcissistic to make a documentary about myself. It has this self-critical element that I think makes it worth it and okay, and that makes it interesting. And then also I feel like the whole love, the unrequited love thing, that's such a universal thing that so many people struggle with, and also just like romance and love in general, capturing a real version of that, and also kind of like satirizing reality TV in that way by showing as real and authentic, like, you know, cinema verite documentary style rather than like MTV reality show style. I think like there were so many things that excited me about the idea, and I remember just exploding with like a 20-page single space Google document over the next like week or two with all these ideas of like ways it can go and notes that could be incorporated. And I spent the next year just shooting interviews with friends and family and capturing some real things. I had no idea where it was going to go or how it would be integrated in there. And then I had some real life experiences with romance, and I kind of forgot about the documentary while it was going on. It was like tiny in the back of my mind, but I was like, I don't even know if I'm going to finish this thing or do it. And then the relationship formed and it quickly ended. And then after like maybe a month or two of sulking, it hit me. I was like, I'm going to take this story and I'm going to make this like the heart of it. And I'm going to hire an actress to play my ex and recreate all these scenes that were not captured on camera, and interweave it with the things that were captured on camera. Like, that's fun. And that's really how it formed. And when I went and shot those recreations, so I think we shot like just 3 hours worth of that story. Like, when I finally edited that stuff, and I was like, oh, only 20 minutes of this is going in the movie. So I was like, I have a series, and I will just expand the story of the movie and like interweave some more things to make these episodes like stand on their own and whatnot. But yeah, that's probably the most detailed but overview.
Yeah, and like it sounds incredible, and like I watched the trailer as well, and like I love the fact in the trailer it's like it kind of embodies everything that you said in that sort of like 2.5 minutes. So it's just where you can kind of tell that it's what is going on in terms of the actual show you're creating versus the behind the scenes, and how like all the kind of emotions of everybody involved kind of intertwine in that, and like it's like obviously like hearing it in its full detail like that. Like I mean, I'm 100% going to go watch it all, and I would encourage anybody listening to do the same. Now the one thing that I found interesting as well, like the first episode that you have is 2.5 hours long, so it's like full documentary sort of thing. And was that why? Because what you mentioned there, why the episodes are like a lot shorter going forward, is that because you kind of needed more to kind of flesh out the series, or was it just was it just a case of circumstance?
Well, no, I think my original idea, like even very on with that shower idea explosion, like I knew that I thought that this was going to be just a plain feature length
Mm-hmm.
project. I was like, it's going to be 90 minutes long, and then I think very shortly into that, I was like, no, this could really be expanded into a series, but I still want that first 90-minute episode.
Yeah.
And you know, like it's not done often, but like, you know, Twin Peaks is one of my favorite shows, and it's not nothing like this, but it's like it starts with a feature length pilot episode, and then the rest of the episodes are like, you
Oh,
know,
okay.
30-40 minutes to an hour at most. And so, you know, I also just feel like the, you know, time constraints on stuff, like I've always kind of disobeyed the rules on that. Like I made a 5.5 hour movie back in 2018.
Oh, wow.
I made a 1 hour feature length film. Like I just, I, I always find it so funny, just like the implicit tediousness people like have about run times. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, yeah, look, I understand it because I know the rules too. I know I'm breaking them, but also like, why not? You know,
Yeah.
I'm not working for any studio that has these rules against me. Like I have no reason not to. A thing is going to be as long as it needs to be. And my run times of, I mean, down to even like when I make songs, like just the length of a song or the length of an album, like it's just something that comes intuitively. And I'm not really worried about getting something down to a specific time. I'm really just worried about what let the time be what it's going to be when the thing is made the way it needs to be made, in my intuitive opinion. So yeah, I mean, I very early on knew that I wanted that first episode to be a standalone feature length film, and then I wanted the rest of the episodes to be something a little more like a normal series, um, and not necessarily feature length. But as you go, like episode 6 is an hour, episode 7's an hour and a half, and the eighth episode will probably be another 2.5 hour
Yeah.
feature length film. I'm just taking my time with it.
No, and rightly so, especially because you put so much into it, and like I think it creates like a nice full circle moment if you have like that really long feature length pilot, and then as you go on, and then obviously a big finale coming to it. And like, has this been a case where you've had the start to finish kind of written out from the beginning, or have there been parts of it per episode where you've kind of added things in as you went along?
Yeah, no, this was a very strange process because you can't, you know, the formula or the main rule is that I have to tell the truth, and
Mm-hmm.
like reality affects what happens. I mean, what's happening is reality,
Yeah.
and so I can map out like what I'm going to try to do on my end, but like the larger portion of it is out of my control, and it's more like we'll see what happens. Um, and so it does make it very hard to like really map things out, but it's more like I can map out like a strategy, almost like playing a sport. Like this is my strategy, and then we'll see what the score is at the end, and that will be recorded. Like, and so yeah, a lot of things are either figured out and captured because we're shooting at reality TV or documentary style. Other things happen in real life and then are later dramatized and recreated with
Yeah.
actors. So, um, yeah, it's kind of this half mapped out, open, find out kind of
Yeah. Oh, of course. Yeah.
playbook.
Like you have your base, and then it's how do you dramatize it and really kind of make it fit with the sort of theme of the series. Like, yeah, that makes sense. And when it comes to then like acting out your parts, obviously these are things that you have like lived through to an extent. But is there like a sort of a different feeling about like acting yourself in terms of like in a dramatized way, almost like a tongue in cheek kind of way? Like, is it sort of, does it come naturally, or is it like a little bit difficult to do?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I don't know if I really thought too hard about how I was going to play these things. I will say, like the largest portion of the reenactments are or were in regard to that most recent relationship at the time. When I started shooting it in early 2024, like I think I started shooting around like heavy shooting around like February. I had just been in a relationship in October of 2023. So like only a few months later, and I feel like the way I played that, obviously it's like condensed for the sake of I cannot literally recreate every moment that
Yeah.
happened, because then this thing would be, a month long. But but uh there was something that just came organic about those reenactments where I didn't have to think about playing myself. I felt like the emotions were still there, and I would often kind of be surprised at the end of shooting a scene. Um it's so weird because like me and the actress that was playing my ex were using very different sources uh for getting into our roles. Like I was using just memory,
Yeah.
and she was having to like think about who she is and like actually step into a role. So like this was I've played myself in comedies before, because like my old sketches and stuff, like I often wouldn't come up with a character name. I mean, I would have characters and stuff, but a lot of them I would just play Cameron, and uh you know be like a caricature of myself. Maybe I'm this way or I'm that way. It just depends on what the sketch needs. But this was, I'm not thinking about any of that. I'm just trying to recreate to the best of my ability and as true to my memory as possible, while also filtering for like this needs to be uh not necessarily dramatized like played up, but dramatized as in condensed to a scene.
Yeah, yeah, of course. And it's quite an interesting dynamic as well, because you have yourself, who's you're playing yourself in this series, but then when you break it down, like the actress you've hired to play your ex is essentially playing a character, because it's not she's not basing it she's basing it on another person, but like that's and I mean, I would assume that would you safe to say she's playing a character in terms of, because it's based on a real person, but it's obviously no one she knows or anything like that.
Right. And I think she certainly thought of it that way. And I feel like I remember her kind of she was so great. Lena, the actress who plays Bethany, my ex in this documentary, Lena was so wonderful. But she was already a friend of mine,
Mm-hmm.
and so and we even had like a little bit of like a personal history with each other that made our dynamic also quite natural
Yeah.
and like easy to get into. Um and I feel like at first when she was getting into it and like learning the role, and especially like me kind of helping, like, okay, no, she was a little more this way, a little more that way. And also like I think in the interim between shoots, she would go watch the real person's like TikToks or like look at the Instagram and stuff, which I was like, I didn't even ask her to do that, but I was like, that's beautiful that you're doing that. And that's so smart because yeah, you need that. And so I feel like at a certain point, like right towards the end, I feel like we got everything we needed, like just in time, because right towards the end, she was starting to like absorb the real person so much to the point where she was starting to feel guilty. She was like, no, this isn't a character. This is a real person. And I feel a little bit bad about this now. And she's like, I can, play more as myself, but I can't do her anymore, man. And I'm just like, I feel you. I don't think I want to anymore.
Yeah, man. There's doing your primary research like that, and then there's like fully embodying like a person who isn't involved in the sort of making of the show or the acting and anything like that. Like I feel like there is a kind of line that needs to be sort of drawn to kind of separate the two things. And no, obviously, like going through a breakup is it's a horrible experience. Nobody really enjoys it. But like, so obviously you carried that kind of emotion going into shooting The Loneliest Boy on Earth. And Like, how do you kind of feel like that helped in terms of your healing process, for lack of a better term?
Oh, brother, I the thing I noticed the earliest when I was shooting it, because I started doing these recreations with Lena, and then also like an older ex who wasn't even really an ex, it was more like a someone I had a very very brief situationship with, and to me that was very funny,
Yeah.
to put effort into something that small and insignificant, to like, yeah, I'm gonna hire an actress to play this person, and so like these memories I was recreating with these actresses, I realized very early on were starting to like replace my memory of the actual thing. Like I'm not remembering the real woman's face in this
Yeah.
scene anymore. I'm thinking about making this with an actress like, oh, this is just a thing I made. This isn't even a real memory. This isn't disturbing. This is funny. This is like
Yeah.
cool and this is fun. And so I realized that kind of early on. I was like, that's interesting. I didn't really think about that. And then once I just finished that first movie and screened it, like, first of all, I had to really physically and mentally push myself, probably the hardest I ever have, to finish the editing in time for the screening, which I had like set up. Um, like we were still shooting, I think when I booked the screening in like March, and it was going to be in July. And then I edited all this stuff of like the reenactments. And like I said, when I was finished, like only 20 minutes of this is going in this first movie. So I have this whole other, which at the time I still thought it was going to be 90 minutes. I have an hour and 10 minutes. I have to figure out what that's, I mean, I kind of knew what it was going to be,
Yeah.
but I hadn't edited it or put it together yet. And I was like, oh, fuck. So then I had probably like 2.5 months to get that done. And maybe a month into that, I realized I was like, I'm going to need to take off work for a whole month and a half if I want to get this done in time. And so I lost money. And I was also like waking up as soon as the sun would rise, and I was putting on these glasses so I could stare at a screen for 18 hours and just edit and record dialogue, or, compile footage and get it in there. Like everything I needed to do, go shoot some more stuff. I would shoot in between and add things I needed that were missing. And I did that for, about 2 months straight. Just these 18-hour days, and very little sleep, very little eating, very little doing anything else at all. And by the time I think I finished the film 2 days before the screening, and I turned it in, and only like me and my friend Kenny had seen it. No one else had seen it. And I just remember like I was so jacked up on caffeine and like just like very uncomfortable in my skin, but also like very relieved to be there and watching with everyone. And also like it's so deeply personal and revealing in a way nothing else I've ever made is. And so like, and I'm also really, I don't really worry about, I'm not a person that like really aims to be super private. Like I don't really care about putting my stuff out there, but I also don't really care if it's out there.
Yeah.
And so like I wasn't necessarily bothered by that, but there was a lot of people I knew in very, very close, people not so close, that were filling up this theater, that were watching a very raw, embarrassing picture of myself. And just the experience of that, and then having like the really polarizing reactions to it. Like some people loved it, they thought it was a masterpiece, other people thought it was too damn long. Those people can go to hell. Complaining about the length of a film is one of the most annoying opinions I think anyone can have. But I just think of the clip of David Lynch when he's shooting the new Twin Peaks, and some producers behind him like, we need to cut the scene down. Time's running a little long. He just turns back. Who gives a fucking shit how long a scene is? And so, anyway. But then also there was just like the content of it. Some people like thought that like in a Nathan Fielder kind of way, like the way that real people were like used or like put on camera and being involved with this project was like really edgy and fun and brilliant, but like well done and like nicely morally balanced, while other people thought that was really fucked up what you did to that person. Like, she was such a sweet lady and you took advantage of her. And like, I'm like, whoa, like I didn't realize, like, I thought I was very careful. And I think also a thing is, I feel like the things that I was actually very careful and respectful about, or like when the truth is actually something that's really complicated and long-winded, and once you hear that complicated, long-winded explanation, it's like, oh, okay, yeah, that's not quite as bad as it seemed when you summarized it to this.
Yeah.
So like very early in the film, I have footage, like old footage of me hanging out with like attractive women on other like film sets and stuff, and like working with them, and like my voiceover narration goes like, sometimes I've used my art as an excuse to just get around attractive women. And so like that was taken as like a predatory thing. And I'm like, okay, it's not like I'm making the art to do this. It's that I make art and I have to cast people and involve them. And sometimes I have allowed the fact that this is an attractive person. Yeah, okay, I'll cast you. It'd be nice to be around you. I don't have an excuse otherwise. I'm not going to ask you out. That's not going to go well. But you want to do something cool and interesting? Okay, that's an excuse for us to hang out. Like that's the more long-winded reality. That's not quite as bad as like, yeah, I've set up this thing to get around this chick. Like it. So. Yeah, I think there's just a lot of things, and also the way like I cut certain things that just for humor, like it comes off as like, oh my god, he's being so pushy and he's like making these women really uncomfortable. But like the in between, it's so respectful, and it's like,
yeah, of course. And I think as well, that's the sort of difference of like looking at something on the surface versus what actually and it really how it really went down in reality, whether it be like off camera or even just in like real life, talking about the circumstances. And I do kind of feel like sometimes people are very like viewers of these sorts of things are very quick to judge, almost in terms of like, oh, this seemed like it was particularly bad. It's like, well, there is a reason for it. I mean, I think I don't really think that anybody who I don't think anybody's going to put anything out there if it's going to make them look really bad and unredeemable in that sort of sense, to the point where it's just, satirize it, make it kind of look funny. And I think obviously with the whole sort of the tone and the theme of the show, it's kind of like, I think one of the reviews, if I remember correctly, said it was the perfect balance of like cringe and humor or something.
Yeah.
And like, it sounds like that's exactly kind of what you might have been going for.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I love creating discomfort, and pushing things to the edge. And like I said, I mean, like, I intentionally worded things in a certain way, or like gave the less flattering version of explanation to things to make myself look bad, look almost like a villain. Because that was the thing I thought was like, okay, I'm obviously the filmmaker to these people. Yeah. I think it adds a layer of humor. Like, why the fuck would you do this to yourself? Like, why the fuck would you paint a picture of yourself like this? So, like, I'm not mad at all for people having a negative interpretation of some of these things. A little bit, I'm like, yeah, I of course you hate me for that, and that looks terrible because I kind of cut it that way. And that is, I guess, the degree to which I was willing to bend reality was, rather than a way, I think if someone were trying to tell this story, typically they'd be trying to bend the film medium to make themselves not so bad. I'm like, yeah, but what if I did the opposite? and so, yeah, I mean, that's just kind of how my brain works creatively. Is I think I said a long time ago, like the things I make, I want to be original, or to seem original, because no one else in their right mind would make it. And I feel like I've kind of stayed true to that ethos throughout like most of the things I've made. But anyway, I feel like I was very long-winded on getting back to your original question, which was about like, I guess, emotional transformation of going through this thing. And, after going through screening that thing and having that reaction, just like I had just such a strange, complicated wave of emotions and processing that I just did not consciously understand. And and I just felt so much at once. And I was also just crashing for pushing myself physically and mentally that far. And I just had like a pivotal moment in my life. I was about to move out of my house and then like move back to my hometown in a living arrangement that was much more expensive. And then like my job, I was working at my mom's restaurant, but I was in a position where I was not making money. And my mom kept promising me this other position where I was going to make a lot more money, but she kept not giving it to me, and like convinced me to move to this more expensive house closer to the restaurant for this reason. And I'm like, hey, you made me sign you talked me into signing this lease. And now if I like, so I was getting in this fight with her, and it got really bad. Like I barely ever cry, but I cried, and like I screamed at her, and then like a day or two later, I reached out, or I mean, it might even that the night after the day that it happened, I reached out to this girl that I used to be in love with since I was like 12 years old, and like all through middle school and high school, she never wanted anything to do with me. I just sent her like a random Instagram message, hadn't seen her or talked to her in 10 years. She messaged me back. We started talking. We're together now. We've been together for like, so like it goes to this old thing where my friend Michael would always talk about like crying out your emotional traumas or like releasing things. And when you do that, you attract your soulmate. And that felt super on the nose to me. Like I did this project that confronted this great weakness. And I feel like what I did, it was like, the weakness of being like a pathetic, unrequited love person was like this tumor on my neck. And the film I had just made and the experience of sharing it was like taking a fire to it that was really painful. But now it's gone. And now I felt like almost like exhausted and apathetic towards this whole thing. Like, I don't give a fuck. I don't even know if I want to be with anyone. Like it seems like it's maybe not for me. My life was pretty good without it, honestly, if I think about it. And as soon as I had that attitude, yeah, I attracted the relationship of my dreams. And that was super unexpected and very baffling to me for several months. Now it's normal and I'm taking it for granted. But yeah, that was the long-winded explanation for like super unexpected sort of emotional or psychological shifts from this work.
Yeah, like, and that's incredible. Like, and I think it goes to show when you kind of stop looking, almost that's whenever these things find you in a sense. And like, because it is just what like sort of possessed you in that time just to randomly send this Instagram message just because you had like a lot of an emotional outburst, and a lot going on. You had this film, with the issues with your mother and all, and look where that's kind of led you. Like, that's fantastic, especially going from when you mentioned about like whole kind of living through life a lot with unrequited love, and then all of a sudden everything kind of just comes full circle and here you are. Like that's incredible, man, honestly.
Thank you.
Yeah. Another thing I wanted to touch on as well was, you mentioned this earlier at the start of the episode, that your character Camboi Smif.
Yeah.
And I've watched a few of the music videos you have on YouTube, and I'm a fan. Let's just say I'm a fan.
Oh, really? Okay.
Oh my God.
Thank you.
Like,
what do you remember? What you listened to?
I listened to Rump and Sexy Lobster. Those were the two that I kind of picked out. And
those are good ones.
Oh my God, man! Like, absolutely incredible. And like, it's amazing what you can do with, particularly for Sexy Lobster, a bit of body paint and a green screen. And like, honestly, phenomenal stuff. So like, I know this character dates back to probably earlier in your days of filmmaking.
2011,
man. Like, and like, obviously, okay, what we're looking 15 years now, and that's like developed so much. So like, take us through the journey of that. What was like the sort of inspiration behind it, and like, how did then you become this sort of, well, the rapper, I suppose, that Camboi Smif is?
Yeah, I mean, I touched on it a little bit earlier. It stemmed from making sketch comedy, and I just made a sketch that was like this mockumentary style thing where I played this white rapper that talked in a black accent and was really bad at rapping. And his first single that he was talking about putting out was called "Dim Binary Numbers," and he's rapping in zeros and ones. And yeah, I mean, he's just an arrogant shithead. And I kept making songs being bad at rapping. And I wasn't like I was intentionally rapping bad. I just was rapping and I'm not good at it. And I knew I wasn't good at it. But then I started like genuinely listening to rap, like a lot of underground, like old school stuff. Like I had some friends that had great taste in rap and steered me away from like a lot of the modern mainstream shit. And then I got really pompous and cunty with my rap opinions, and then I started loosening up and recognizing that there are some mainstream folks that are undeniably great, like Eminem and Kanye West. They're very mainstream, but I love them. I love Tyler the Creator, and they're not really mainstream, but Run the Jewels.
Oh yeah, Run the
Yeah,
Jewels are 10 out of 10.
but anyway, I and then also I feel like another early influence when I started actually listening to rap and getting good at it. I listened to a lot of R.A. the Rugged Man and like Jedi Mind Tricks early on, but Tech Nine, I had a Tech Nine phase, and that's when I started like rapping faster and like rhyming more densely and like actually getting into the craft. And then I think I had like a Biggie phase after that, so I kind of got a little more of like a groove to it and like was willing to slow down and have like a better, more like boom bap kind of flow. And yeah, with each album, I think you can see a progression of technical skill.
Yeah.
And then I think at a certain point, like I just had a very technical skill showy, like massive rap album, CGM, in like 2018. And then after that, I think I got interested in like experimenting with just different sounds and genre bending and like maybe trying to sing a little bit more or just having shorter songs or just getting a little more experimental and going all over the place. And that I released like 5 albums in 2020 and 2021. Coronavirus I made in a week. Then a month after that, in 3 weeks, I made the Bad Boy album. And then later that year, I had a fucking psychotic break. And then I made the I Don't Feel Well, I Need Attention album. Then Coronavirus 2. And then I made Love Songs for Absolutely No One, which was a whole album for that girl I had a situationship with that I talked about in The Loneliest Boy on Earth. Which again, it's like I hung out with this girl twice and made her an 11-track album.
That is the most fucking retro thing I've ever heard in my. That's like the equivalent of like when you like someone back in the day and you give them like a mixtape. That's like the sort of amplified level of that. I love that. That's incredible.
Yeah, no, there was something that was so genuine about, like, it was really genuinely flowing out of me. Like I didn't have to, apply pressure to get these songs, to squeeze these songs out of me. It just was coming. But there was something that was very tongue in cheek and hilarious to me about like, dude, I barely know this person. Having, one song is maybe a thing, but like a whole 11 tracks, that's ridiculous. And then just the album art on top of it, it's like a bunch of her real pictures from Instagram that have been printed out and then cut out in little pieces of her face, reconstructed and then painted over. It is just straight up insane serial killer shit.
Oh, it's phenomenal. Holy shit.
Yeah. So yeah, and so 2021 is the last album I put out, and I put out a single a couple of years ago. That's that Blood on the Mirror video that's on my channel. But I'm working on another album right now. I'm about like halfway through the demo album, and I'm getting back to work on the back half. And hopefully this is a even larger leap in progression of technical skill and just general ability to make music.
Yeah, definitely. And I think the one thing that kind of strikes me with it is that obviously you started this character, and like you said, as you say, you were bad at rapping, and that kind of like translated onto it, but it added to like the sort of character and the humor. But as time has progressed, you have like gotten better at rapping, and it's sort of like shows, and like obviously the technical aspects are better. And do you kind of feel like it's sort of changes, it like progresses from being bad at rapping to being good at rapping, but then being able to sort of, like you mentioned, diversify the sort of genre and type of rap, but also you can make like a bad rap sound good, if that makes sense?
I do know what you mean, because I mean, the Bad Boy album is a great example because I went into that like with some rules of like I can rhyme and I'm probably going to, but I don't have to. Like that's like like a meta extension of the bad boy attitude. Like fuck it. Like it's like I don't even have to rhyme. I don't feel like doing that. Like I'm a bad boy. I'm unconventional. I break the rules. Like whatever. So like the second track on there, Bad Rhymes, there's a music video for it, and that's a great example of like I have the technical ability to rap like incredibly on beat and very dense rhymes. This is just intentionally stupid. Like it's intentionally stupid. The flow is retarded. And also at the same time, there's something about it where like even though it's intentionally bad, you can tell that the guy could do it if he wanted to.
Yeah.
There's like something about it's like this is bad, but like someone who's genuinely bad couldn't do it like this. So I know exactly what you mean in terms of like some things you just kind of let be rough and raw, or like I'm trying to think of like a good example. All that's kind of coming to mind is, and this is such a stupid example, but like that newest Joker movie with Lady Gaga, and they made like a musical. I remember her doing an interview because she's actually like a great singer, but like, and it's not like she was a terrible singer in that movie, but she was like intentionally dumb or like dulling her voice. Like she was intentionally singing as if she were more amateur. And like I thought that, I mean, I think that's a smart move for that project. And so yeah, I don't know why I'm going on so long about this, but yeah, you get the idea of what I'm saying.
I know what you mean, man. I know what you mean. Yeah, and like I just think the progression side of it is just incredible because you're learning so much more, and you kind of know, you think you go to like knowing what works for the specific project that you're in and what would kind of add the best value really to what it is you're doing, whether it be like people come out thinking that was a good listen, or people think, yeah, that was funny as fuck, man. Oh my God.
Right.
Yeah. And so you said you're working on a new one. Is that to be expected this year, or first half or second half of this year, or?
It'll be out this year. I can't predict how fast I'm working on this one because I mean I've been playing with this shit since 2022, but I made a shit ton of like tangible, solid progress just in November and December, or really, I would say November this past year. And then I've taken like a month break and I'm about to get back into it. And so I have no idea how fast I'll work. And my process is quite a bit different. I'm using Logic now. I was using like a combination of recording in Sony Vegas and then mixing in FL Studio. And before that, I was just strictly making this music in Sony Vegas, which isn't a music mixer. For those who aren't familiar, that is a old video editor. So the fact that I made multiple albums in that video editor is kind of ridiculous.
But impressive nonetheless, anyway. And yeah, definitely look forward to that coming out. Yeah, Cameron, it's been a pleasure having you on Behind the Camera podcast. Thank you so much for your time. Before we wrap up, I would just like to give you the floor just for the listeners. Where can we find you?
Sure, and thank you very much. You can find me on social media at CumSmut. That is CUMSMUT. I'm on Instagram and Twitter and X. Or sorry, Instagram, TikTok, and X. Twitter's not a thing anymore. And Instagram's the one I probably am the most active or use the most. My TikTok is just a bunch of AI clip slop. Don't even bother following me on there. And then on YouTube, that's probably the best place. That's also at CumSmut or youtube.com/Cameron Smith Films, and you can find The Loneliest Boy on Earth on there for free. I also have a Patreon now, and you can get access to a lot of my old stuff, a la carte style, or get the whole shebang. And that's also at CumSmut or patreon.com/CumSmut. Thank you all for listening. This was Behind the Camera podcast.
You definitely heard that right. CumSmut. Once again, thank you, Cameron, for your time. It's been an absolute pleasure.
You're very welcome, brother. Thank you for having me.
And there you have it. That brings us to the end of episode 82 of Behind the Camera. Massive thank you to Cameron Smith for being this week's guest. Cameron's unapologetic and true-to-life approach to his work is really something to be admired, and you could just tell that his creative passion and development also really shone through in our chat. Thank you again to all new and existing patrons for supporting the podcast. If you too would like to stay connected and support, check out my link tree in the About section where you'll find the Patreon, merch store, socials, and much more. Even rating the show and sharing with a friend really goes a long way. Until next time, take care, stay creative, and I'll see you soon. But until then, peace.